Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Faction of Hope Democratic Party disowns petition against the victory of President Buhari as tribunal turns down request by faction of the party to call more witnesses against President Buhari. President Buhari vows full implementation of autonomy for state legislature and judiciary, says move will further strengthen democracy in Nigeria. Governors of 6 southwest states meet in Ibadan over increasing kidnapping and other crimes in the region, agree to tackle menace jointly. And diplomatic tension between US and Iran rises further as President Trump lashes out at Iran's reaction to his announcement of fresh sanctions against the Middle Eastern country. For more information on our top stories and others, please visit our website, channelstv.com. YouTube.com/channelsweb has videos of our shows. Subscribe to Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. Besides giving you access to news updates on the go, the Channels TV and Channels 24 app has an eyewitness feature that you can use to share pictures, videos, or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, tap and swipe to reveal the menu, and please follow the instructions. A Lagos High Court sitting in the Igboshere area has sentenced the Togolese cook, Sunday Adefonu Anani, to life imprisonment for the murder of his boss, the Chief Executive Officer of Credit Switch Limited, Okpe Bademosi. Justice Mobalanle Okikiolu-Ihile convicted and sentenced the cook after he pleaded guilty to 1 count of voluntary manslaughter. Anani confessed to the court that he stabbed Chief Bademosi to death in his Ikoyi, Lagos home while trying to rob him on October the 31st, 2018. The Lagos State government had initially arraigned the cook on 2 counts of murder and armed robbery, which could have fetched him the then sentence by hanging on conviction. But he struck a plea bargain deal shortly after the trial commenced, allowing him to admit to a lesser charge of manslaughter. Staying in the courts in less than 24 hours after a federal high court in Lagos issued a bench warrant for his arrest, the chairman of Innoson Motors, Mr. Innoson Chukwuma, has described the move as an abuse of court process. In a statement, Mr. Chukwuma says the order is a nullity and has no grounds in law, as the court lacks the necessary jurisdiction. He also says that he has taken steps by appealing the bench warrant order and filing an application to stay the execution of the order. Mr. Chukwuma goes on to allege that the order is being orchestrated by Guarantee Trust Bank in order to force him to negotiate with the bank from a weaker position. Mr. Chukwuma is alleged to have altered the shipping clearance documents to the shipping line Mitsui Osk Lines, which were used as collateral for the purpose of obtaining a 2.4 billion naira loan from the bank for the purpose of clearing raw materials. The case is pending before the Federal High Court in Lagos. Away from legal matters, the Senate President Ahmed Lawan says the 9th National Assembly will continue with the openness which started in 2018. Senator Lawan believes that there is a need to be transparent in the dealings of the National Assembly. He insists, however, that federal lawmakers do not receive jumbo pay as speculated, but asks for more funding for the National Assembly to aid its oversight functions. He was speaking to a group known as Forum of Senators, made up of past and present senators who paid him a courtesy visit in his office.
We are going to be very seriously and systematically entrenched with the oversight. Any minister or chief executive officer of an organization that is expected to function must function. I never believed that there is anything called jumbo pay to the National Assembly. The National Assembly members, both the Senate and the House, receive what is their salaries, and I receive 750,000 as my salary. But I need to function as a senator. My office needs to be properly funded. And therefore, I cannot conduct my oversight without some funding. So I believe that Nigerians need to understand this. So I believe that we need to continue to engage with the public. The public needs to understand what our functions and roles are. And on this, I believe that we should continue with the openness. In 2018, we had the first version of the openness, where individuals and NGOs and CBOs were invited, and we had a lot of activities with public. We'll continue with that tradition. In fact, we'll try to enhance it. so that our public, our citizens are able to come into the National Assembly, see what we do, we explain what we do.
Concerned with the growing unrest in some states of the Southwest, the 6 governors from the region, security operatives and experts, as well as community leaders, are jointly seeking ways of confronting the security challenges. At the first security summit of the year, organized by the Development Agenda for Western Nigeria in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, the governors agreed that it is time to employ more efficient strategies with better funding.
The concern over the increase in crime in the southwest region of the country has prompted this summit in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. Governors of Ekiti, Lagos, Ogun, Ondo, Osun, and host governor of Oyo State have come to meet with traditional rulers, security agencies, and all who equally find the situation worrisome. The host governor, Seyi Makinde, set the tone for the 2-day summit by highlighting some of the problems and what has to be done.
Today, criminal activities of herdsmen are no longer limited to the North Central. We have received reports of the activities in the Southwest. As a group on this side of the Niger, we have always had more things that unite us than those that divide us. We have always held our doors open and been welcoming of strangers. We want things to continue exactly like this. Recent events in the Southwest.
A statement the Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun seconds with a sense of urgency.
Until now, at the level of states, we've had to deal with different levels of aggression, different attacks on commuters on the highways. This calls for urgent action.
The chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum and Ekiti State Governor Kayode Fayemi resolves to keep the region safe. He asks the people to hold their governors accountable for the security of their states.
We, as your governors, should be held accountable. That's why you have elected us. Hold us accountable for the security and safety of our citizens.
Some recommendations, which include stiffer penalties for kidnapping, the abolition of existing land use laws and acts, have been made by participants. Hopefully, at the end of the summit, the implementation of the eventual communique will bring the peace the region yearns for.
Let's cross over to Abuja now. Here's Makbe Ogun Yusuf. Makbe?
Well, telling up from your security story there, Ijoma. As part of efforts to reduce clashes between farmers and herdsmen, the federal government is going ahead with the establishment of ranches across the country. The Commandant General of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, Mr. Abdullahi Mohammed, says 250 cattle ranches will be established nationwide. He was speaking in Abuja at the decoration of 39 newly promoted commandants of the Corps, where he revealed that agro-rangers are being trained to provide security at the ranches in line with the expanded mandate of the Corps. Meanwhile, the Benue State government is kicking against the implementation of Ruga settlement projects for Fulani herdsmen, accusing the federal government of undermining the security of its indigents. Governor Samuel Otom says the establishment of the cattle settlement runs contrary to the state open grazing prohibition and ranches establishment law of 2017. The governor, through his chief press secretary, Mr. Tevre Akase, told journalists that the federal government was mobilizing to site in Otukpo, Tarka and Ukum local councils for what he describes as open grazing in disguise. He insists that Benue will not accept the Ruga settlement project.
Minded about the Land Use Act, which confers on the governor the powers to administer lands in all parts of the state. Officials of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture left with a promise to relay the message to their headquarters. They surprisingly returned a few days later with contractors to commence work on the Ruga settlements. We find the approach of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture not only as a gross violation of the ranching law, but also as an insult to the sensibilities of the entire Benue people. It could be recalled that the people and government of Benue State rejected cattle colonies and still reject the policy in whichever robes it is disguised.
And in other news, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Mohammed Adamu, has unveiled a new security measure, the deployment of sniffer dogs at railway stations across the country. Mr. Adamu, who was speaking in Abuja at the official deployment ceremony, says men of the K9 squad have been properly trained to checkmate the activities of illicit drug dealers and other criminals exploring the option of rail transportation. The police chief is assuring commuters of effective security and the commitment of the police to make the nation's railways safe at all times.
The deployment of special breed and exceptionally trained police dogs for security duties is as old as human civilization. Hence, the utilization in combating crime and sundry internal security threats in the 21st century cannot be overemphasized. Indeed, K9 are known to possess extraordinary capacity for detection of improvised explosive devices, narcotics, and other illicit drugs, firearms, and other prohibited items, which criminals usually engage for the perfection of their criminal activities. The deployment of police dogs is therefore meant for detection of preventing crime along the railway corridors. With today's initiatives, passengers, staff, and indeed all the citizens of this country can further be reassured of their security as they patronize the services of the Nigerian Railway Corporation.
Inspector General of Police Mohammed Adamu. When the News at 10 returns, immediate past Minister of Finance Zainab Ahmed says sustainability financing will contribute to Nigeria's economic growth. Says government will raise value-added tax rate to 7.5% from the current 5% in 2020. That's on Business News. Do join us again.